Hello and welcome to the Swinging Bunt Podcast. Today we have myself, Jake Vossen. We have Wes Wagner, James Martin, and special guest star host, found some time in his busy schedule, Carl Jones Jenkins, also known as CJ Jones. CJ is on the show today. He's our resident NBA set also expert. I would say Wes and James both know the NBA pretty well. Pretty much conversation's good. You have three guys that know something, and I don't know basketball, so I brought CJ in. CJ also will get some input, I'm sure, on football as well. That being said, we're going to dive into the baseball playoffs as we are in the championship series for both leagues right now. We also have finished week 6 of the NFL season, and the NBA starts tonight as this is being recorded on Wednesday, October 19th, or Tuesday, I apologize, Tuesday, October 19th. You, the listeners, will be catching it on Wednesday, October 20th. So thank you so much for listening and enjoy the show. All right. If you are not already, please be sure to subscribe to the show on wherever it is you are listening or watching on. And if you're on YouTube, click like on the video and make sure you hit the bell so you get future content from the Swinging Bunt. We will update you guys on our picks from last week, from the week 6 line. I think we had a host win again, which has been a good run for us.
Mm-hmm. I think Mac won.
Yep.
Mac had a good week.
We'll highlight that on Wednesday, and then we'll start our next picks. So let's just start off right off the bat. NCAA football. A wild week, kind of, but not really. Really just Iowa sucked. I mean, they dropped from 2 to like 11 in the AP poll. So the Big Ten only has 4 teams in the top 10 now instead of 5 like we had previously. But Iowa just didn't look like a contender. I mean, you lose to Purdue at home. You're not the team that everyone thought. And that's just the thing. When you're 5-6 games into a season, there's a lot of undefeated teams that haven't really played a new one yet. So we'll see, I think, as we go throughout the season, who the real players are. What do you guys think about this week? Any notes that you want to bring up from the college football weekend?
I mean, Alabama looked angry when they played Mississippi State.
Yes.
Mississippi State is a good team, and Alabama just ran the field on 49-9. So a big upset against Texas A&M. If Texas A&M wins out, they might be in the playoff.
Well, I mean, with their wins they've had, yeah.
But they got to win out. They got to beat Ole Miss, and there's a few other teams in the SEC they got to beat. So, but Alabama played angry.
One game that I really enjoyed watching was Texas and Oklahoma State. Yet Oklahoma State was the number 12 and Texas 25, and Texas has just been all these crazy games this year. And like we mentioned before, is you get a new coach, you're going to have some inconsistencies, but they look good. And then all of a sudden they get shut out in the fourth quarter, and Oklahoma State puts up 16 in the fourth to come back and take a win. So,
well, I'll say one of the most underrated players in the country, who should be a Heisman finalist, is Bijan Robinson, the running back for Texas. Mm-hmm. He's the best player on the field every time he plays. So
I think this is the year of a running back winning the Heisman. First time in a while.
I would agree.
Because I think if it's not Bijan, then it's going to be the guy out of Michigan State. What's his name? I forgot his name all of a sudden.
Doesn't matter. Neither one of them are winning it.
Why? Who do you think is going to take it, James?
It's always going to probably be a quarterback, and I
mean, it's not always.
It's going to be
usually yes.
I mean, who would get it though?
No one's running away with it.
It's going to be Bryce Young. It's got to be Bryce Young.
I mean, he is the lead candidate, but if he has another,
he had 350 yards and 4 touchdowns last week.
Yeah. If he loses again, that might hurt him. But
I mean, it does come down, which they probably will lose one more time.
Yeah,
is my guess.
Kenneth Walker in 6 games for Michigan State has 150 carries, 1,000 yards, a longest rush of 94 and 9 touchdowns, which is a pretty elite season. I mean, he carries this pace out. He's going to have 20 plus touchdowns and over 2,000 yards. So,
yeah, I mean, the fantasy odds from Vegas came out today, and Bryce Young was the leader. But there's a lot of guys who could be up there for sure.
They said that the defensive lineman from Georgia actually could have a chance of winning it.
That'd be crazy. We haven't seen a defensive player win it since Desmond Howard.
I don't know if a defensive lineman's ever won it.
No, defensive player, I said.
Yeah.
I know. I'm just saying. I was just thinking.
I don't think a defensive player's ever won Heisman. Not that I can think. Our defensive lineman, I mean.
Unless you count Lawrence Taylor, but he's definitely a linebacker. But.
Yeah.
And I don't think he won it
not
either.
falling for their tricks.
But I mean, that's a good take, James. I mean, honestly, I would say Georgia has the best team in the country minus the quarterback. So
it's not really close. I mean, as far as well-rounded team goes, I think that the only lock that I have for the playoffs right now is Georgia. Because I think they win out and then they could possibly lose to Alabama in the SEC championship. But even if they do,
still be in.
Yeah, even if they do, they could still be in. Cincinnati, I think, is a team that if they lose one game, they're out of the playoffs, in my opinion.
I think they only have one hard matchup too, and that's SMU.
Yeah, so if they lose that game to SMU,
12 teams in the playoff though. So
that's right. Yeah, that changed. Wait, no, not yet.
Pretty sure.
I don't think so. I think it's still just 4 this year. How many?
Someone needs to fact check it.
I will talk about the Georgia game for a second. Speaking of Georgia, this is actually the second most points they gave up all season, which is 13. They have the best defense ever, actually, like statistically, right now as parts of the season. Like the championship teams that have won, like you think about all the dominant Alabama teams, and this team is like 6 or 7 points per game better than that team. It's just stinking nuts. And I hate it because, well, Tennessee's got to play them, and Tennessee's got to play Alabama. Tennessee's got to play Kentucky. Tennessee's got to play Ole Miss.
It is only
I'm a little hurt.
It is only 4 teams.
Okay.
So they're discussing 12, but only 4.
I thought so. They just went up to 12. Just said forget 8.
I think they're discussing it. We'll see, because they're talking about doing like the top 4, the winners of the Power 5 conferences are in, and then you have at-large bids, right? So I can't remember what the exact rule was, but they're discussing it. But yeah, Georgia looks really good. Let me pull up the rankings really quick. AP poll. So right now you've got Georgia, Cincinnati, Oklahoma, Alabama, Ohio State, and Michigan. Those are in Penn State, Michigan State as well. Those are I suppose Oklahoma State. Only teams. Oregon could maybe get in if they win out and win the Pac-12 as well. Those 10 teams are the only ones I give a legitimate shot. I mean, Coastal Carolina is not in, even if they go undefeated. Notre Dame already has a loss, and they got a tough schedule, so I doubt that they get in. Ole Miss won't. They'll lose too many games in the conference they're in. So, really, real shot. Michigan, I think, has to win out or lose to maybe just Ohio State, or lose in the Big Ten championship. Ohio State probably has to win out. Michigan State could lose one game to Ohio State or Michigan. Penn State probably has to win out. Alabama has to win out. Oklahoma, they could probably lose their Big 12 championship and still get in. And Cincinnati has to win out. And it depends. There's so many things that go in. I mean, a bunch of teams lose their championships or whatever. Things could change. But those are really the only.
It probably depends on who Cincinnati loses to.
Yeah.
If they play Oregon, they might stay in there. But
yeah, I don't think Cincinnati, they're the team I'm afraid of the least. Just because good teams beat bad teams and all they play is bad teams. So, all right. Any other NCAA news you want to touch on real quick? So NFL, I hope you guys saw, I said, let's all pick one game that we want to talk about. And you can pick any game you want. If you want to pick your own team, I do not care. I mean, I picked my own team. What happened to be the most watched game of the week this year, according to.
So that means I don't get to pick my team then.
Sorry, Wes. Sadness.
That's all right.
Wes goes first.
So I'll go first. But I thought the Cowboys-Patriots game said a lot about both teams, which is why I picked this game. I watched every game this week, except for I kind of watched the Monday night game. Didn't see it in full. But the Cowboys played really poorly. Now, that being said, they had 560 something offensive yards, which is great, but they had turnovers and over 100 yards of penalties. They had like 12 penalties, and they just shot themselves in the foot. I mean, they played poorly, but the thing is, they are such a talented team that often, even when you play poorly, the more talented team wins. I mean, the Patriots had several chances to win that game, but the more talented team eventually won. Even though Trayvon Diggs has 7 interceptions, I said this to, I don't remember who it was. I've never seen a DB who is so bad have so many interceptions. I don't think he's awful, but the guy gives up so many yards every game. He get hit. The guys covering him. Look at the numbers, Wes. The guys that Trayvon Diggs covers, he gives up lots of yardage to him. However, he plays super aggressive, so it's high risk, high reward is his style. But like he gets these plays where it's game-changing plays, so it's worth it. But as far as like his decisions on routes a lot, he gets beat on double moves pretty often. So the guy's been playing lights out, but then also he gets beat over top quite a bit as well.
That 75-yard play was on the safety, not him, because he was expecting over-the-top help, and the safety just kind of ran right by the receiver.
Oh, the safety should have picked the ball off, in my opinion.
So
that was not a great throw.
I wouldn't give that on him.
But he also got beat by the double move. I mean, he was on man coverage on that, so he could have been expecting help, but the double move, he just lost him.
Yeah, I think
he tried to jump and get another pick.
He was the under coverage, and the safety's supposed to be over the top, and he gets. Anyways,
but the one thing I really want to touch on, that Cowboys look really good even when they're bad, which is just great. CeeDee Lamb looked electric. Dak looked great, but the one thing I really want to touch on is I was severely disappointed by Bill Belichick's coaching. His lack of aggression in a game when you have not won at home yet. You're 1-4. And is it 1-4? Yeah, 1-4. No, I'm sorry. You're 2-3. You're 2-3. And you're playing a high scoring offense that every single time you've punted, they've scored. He gets in the middle of the field on like the last drive or whatever, and also in overtime, 4th and 1, and won't go for it. And it's like, it's not like the Cowboys have been stuffing you all night. You've had several different play schemes that have moved the ball downfield and just punting and just not having any willingness to drive the ball downfield. I understand that it appears that their method this year, or their strategy this year, is to keep Mac from making a bunch of mistakes that ruin a quarterback. Kind of like anti-Adam Gase, where he said, all right, Darnold, you're going to go ahead and throw the ball as much as you want and just make so many mistakes that now your career is ruined, right? Now, Darnold's seeming to recover pretty well. And they're trying to do the opposite of that and make him just make smart throws. But it is costing them games that they could win. I mean, if they are aggressive and keep the ball out of the Cowboys' hands and say, look, our defense isn't stopping the Cowboys, why not just try to go for it and see if we can win the game right here? I think they probably win that game. So I'm definitely shaken by Bill's play calling. I think that Brady was able to cover up quite a bit because they were in these situations often. Yeah, one sec, James. They were in these situations often, but Brady's efficiency often kept these hard decisions out of Bill's head. And also, Brady would audible and make lots of decisions on his own. And I think he had a big impact on play calling. And it appears that now they are too afraid to do anything with Mac Jones. Maybe they're just trying to protect the rookie, but you're not going to win games that way in today's NFL. So that was kind of my 2 cents worth on the game. And that's kind of what I thought. You guys have any thoughts on that game, James?
Yeah. So I thought they did fine. The one play I thought that was the big mistake in the turning point in the game is when they had the ball up 1, I think it was 2nd down, and they passed the ball, and it didn't seem like a very good call. Like just crossing around the middle, mm-hmm. There was a whole lot of protection.
Well, it was just after the delay of game.
The pick. I thought they were up, and there was like 2.5 minutes left. Mm-hmm. Or whatever it was, and I just thought they should have ran the ball,
especially a throw over the middle,
and then passed it. Yeah,
a throw over the middle. I mean, there's so many guys in the area; anything could happen. A batted ball by the D lineman. I mean, there's just a lot of risk. Now, the explanation that Patriots fans that are saying Bill's a great coach, and I still think he's a great coach too, but they're saying, well, it was 2nd and 10, and your quarterback out after a timeout just had delay of game to bring it back to 2nd and 15. So if you get the first down, the game is practically over because then you can run it out the clock and they won't have any timeouts left, even if they get stopped, right? So they're thinking just get the first down, which in that sense, I like the aggression, but the play call of throwing the ball over the middle, like it's just so risky. And especially you can wait till 3rd down to do that. Make them do at least one more timeout because if you don't get it, then you have to throw on 3rd and 15. You're forced to. So now they have gotten to stop the clock twice without calling a single timeout. So I agree, James. You got to run there. So that's my sense on the game. I don't want to go too into it because we got more games to talk about. Wes, what game did you want to bring up today?
I'll go to someone else first.
Oh, James, go ahead.
I was going to – if someone chose – yeah, that's what I was going to do. I also was going to potentially do Cardinals-Browns, but
good game too.
The Titans game was a little better.
Please.
I'll do the Titans-Bills. This game was pretty much a 2-man show. It was basically Derrick Henry versus Josh Allen, which obviously Josh Allen has the third someone, but he had 353 yards and 3 touchdowns. And he really never wavered this whole game. I mean, he looked pretty good. He was making some incredible throws, like you know how he does. His rushing, it was good, except his very last rush. It's like Derrick Henry. I mean, is he? I mean, when does he get to the point? Don't take the throw away as one of the greatest running backs of all time. I mean, at what point?
I would agree. I would say
he has to do it for a sustain. I mean, he's on a 3-year stretch right now, right? He needs to do it for 5+, 6, 7 years. And Barry Sanders had almost a 10-year career at this level.
Well, Barry Sanders is one of the few, but I mean, you think about think about Earl Campbell. We think of him as one of the best ever. He only played like 6 or 7 years because he was just ran into the ground, which is kind of what Derrick Henry's going through.
I mean,
he's also built
he's
different.
there. He is one of the best.
So here's the way I would describe it now, James. You could argue best of his time, but he's going to have to do a lot more for a very long time because people have had amazing 2-3 year stretches before. I mean, LaDainian Tomlinson, Barry Sanders, these guys did it for nearly 10 years at this level of 20-ish touchdowns, 2,000 yards, nearly close to, right? I mean, yes, he has had some of the highest peak, right? These 3-year stretch has been one of the highest peaks we've ever seen, but just don't burn out. So if he can do this for another 5 years, then I'd be like, all right, one of, if not the greatest.
So what do we think about? I mean, we're saying you're saying you value length of career,
longevity,
and longevity 100%. Of success. I personally, I look at the physical, the dominance of a player. If he's dominant for 3 or 4 years, that's more valuable to me as being very good over a 10-year span.
So then I wouldn't argue that he was the greatest, though. I'd argue that he had one of the most dominant stretches. Oh, I thought I could have swore you said the greatest.
I said one of the greatest.
Oh, okay. Like I said, I would still need it to be more time. I mean, because the first parts of his career, he was sat behind DeMarco Murray.
Yeah. Well, and DeMarco.
So he didn't have that stretch, right? And a lot of these guys, I mean, I'd probably still put Adrian Peterson ahead of him.
I would agree.
So, I mean, just guys like that have had that dominance, right? Over a prolonged time. So I just want to see a few more years, probably, James, before I were able to say that.
Anyway, back to the game. It was just back and forth. Bills kind of pulled away. What I loved about Tennessee is that they didn't go away from Derrick Henry. They kept giving him the ball. I mean, he did have the 84-yard touchdown run or something like that, whatever it was. But then he was just doing typical Derrick Henry, 3 yards, 4 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards, 20 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards, 20 yards.
It's just,
and then touchdown.
And it comes down to me, for me, it just is his size. Like you can take a running back and say, hey, you're going to run the ball 20 times. And they're like, okay, we'll tackle you. You're small. You're a little guy. But tackling Derrick Henry 20 times takes 3 people diving all over the place, trying to bring down the student, getting battered and bruised. It tires out a defense a lot more than a regular running back running the ball 20 times.
They showed a stat in that game where it said yards per carry by quarter. In the first quarter, it was like 2.3
yards. I saw that.
Second quarter, 3.2. Third quarter, like 4.1. Fourth quarter, like 6.5. So he just wears down people.
Yep,
I would not want to be a defender playing against him.
I thought the coolest stat of everything was before this week, but he obviously went up. It was like Derrick Henry rushing leader gave his stats, and it was like Derrick Henry after contact was still the second highest over everybody. Mm-hmm. It's just nuts to see. I don't know. I'm
so hard to tackle.
I'll admit it. I'm okay with it. But the game was back and forth. Like I said, it came down to the Bills got the ball with around a minute left. I'm not sure exactly what it was. They drove the field, and Josh Allen went for a quarterback run on third down. And it was inches away from a first down. And so instead of kicking the field goal and tying it and sending it to overtime, they decided to go for it. And Josh Allen slipped when he went to push and plant his foot to get the first down, and he fell right to the ground. He was touched immediately.
Yep.
And the Titans ended up winning, which brings joy to my heart. But it was
anticlimactic,
a very, very good
disappointing way to end a game. How sad!
Not for me.
It was sad. All right, Wes, you got a game for us that you enjoyed watching this week?
CJ, what game are you going to talk about, CJ? So I know which one I can talk about.
I didn't have. I just off the top of my head.
Oh, that's fine. Did you watch any this week? No,
I followed them, but I didn't watch it.
Okay, don't worry about it.
So I wanted to talk about the other Texas team, the Houston Texans, and also they're 17.5-point underdogs this week against the Cardinals, like with JJ Watt.
Their lines this year have been insane. The
Hopkins,
Texans have had
return.
huge lines every week.
It was and this week we were like, man, 9.5 points. There's no way the Colts cover that. And they
Thought they were going to actually
blew it out of the water, but 31.
Yeah, I know. Well, the Texans have been covering most of their games except for that one against the Bills. So it seemed like they would probably cover against the Colts, who haven't really shown us anything yet.
Yeah, 2 out of 3 weeks they've been shellacked by teams. But I mean, the Colts did whatever they wanted on offense. Jonathan Taylor had 145 yards on 14 carries. Carson Wentz looked like Carson Wentz of old, and he only threw 20 passes. And then, Texans were doing what they do. They turned the ball over. They bad play calling. It was just bad all the way around. The Texans are now tied for the worst record in the league because the Jaguars got that win. So
Texans and Lions,
actually,
just
Lions,
like old times.
The Lions are still winless, so I take that back.
Yeah. Okay. So the Lions, the Texans got to win. That's right.
But if the Lions I don't know if they play the Texans this year. I would bet on the Lions to win that game because the Texans they're about as bad as you can imagine.
Are the Lions going to have the third winless season of all time and take 2 of the 3 winless seasons?
Depends on
I
who
don't
they
think
play.
so.
I don't think so either. They've been playing hard. They were playing hard the first couple of weeks, and then
they've played good teams too.
People were saying, "Oh, the Lions are actually really good," and then they've just been beaten over and over and over and over again. So I think they'll win at least 2 or 3 games. Going back to the Texans, I can see the Texans losing out, honestly, with how bad they are. So maybe that's just my hatred for the Texans. But if you look at if you watch a game, I bet you can't make it through a half. That's how bad they are.
Oh well. You think Brandon Cooks gets traded?
Yes.
Before the deadline here?
Yes.
I sure hope so.
And Zach Cunningham.
Who's that?
He's a linebacker.
Who he play for?
That's one of the best linebackers in the league.
Well, he led the league in tackles last year, but he's
not always a good thing.
Yeah, it's not.
Which is interesting.
He was making the tackles, but give up 6 or 7 yards every time. But
Ethan Kennan remember Ethan Kennan?
Oh yeah.
He used to always brag about how he had the most tackles in the NCAA that one year. I was like, because you're on defense 90% of the game. And literally the rest of the team cannot make a tackle. So, all right. So moving on then, I think we want to discuss one more thing. Who's your MVP of the season so far? We'll start with James, and then we'll save CJ for last.
Okay. This is hard because me and you had a conversation about this yesterday, and I told you 2 names who I thought were a toss-up for me personally. I know we didn't agree, and you have someone else, but I think currently right now, I just think because of record and everything, I would say Kyler Murray. He's putting up great stats. They're 6-0. I mean, and the Braves are losing now. Sorry, but Kyler Murray is my choice right now. And I would to say who's close.
Huh? We'll say the discussion for after. We'll say the discussion for after. So for me right now, I've got Josh Allen. The guy has played nearly immaculate. Granted, they have 2 losses, but it's been against 2 really good teams and been really well played. He hasn't had a bad game yet this year. Granted, Pittsburgh, he struggled week 1 a little bit, but he still played well against what was then one of the best defenses. They've had so many injuries now. They're not playing like they were before then, but he's played so well throughout the year. He's passing, he's running. He's even played well without throwing to Diggs a whole lot. So to me, Josh Allen looks like aesthetically the best quarterback in the league, just with the ability that he has to make amazing throws. His decision-making has been far better than Patrick Mahomes' decision-making this year, limiting turnovers and just putting his team in position to win every game. So this was a tough decision. I think there's 3 or 4 guys that you could really put in this conversation, but right now I've got Josh Allen. Wes?
Yeah, I mean, it's a toss-up for me right now with both guys, and I'll throw in another guy that probably deserves some love is Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's I don't think he's had a game under 100 yards rushing, maybe 1. So
he definitely has had at least 1.
If he runs for 1,900, 2,000 yards, I mean, can you not give him at least Offensive Player of the Year? And that means he's got to be up there for MVP. But if I had to pick between Kyler and Josh Allen, here's a weird stat. Kyler had 4 fumbles last week.
Mm-hmm.
Really weird, but
2 of them were on bad snaps.
But I'll still give it to Kyler. Last week they were without their coaching staff, which maybe that means they're better without Kingsbury. I don't know, but
maybe.
but Kyler was great, and now he's got a lot of talent around him. And Josh Allen has Diggs, but I just love watching Kyler Murray. To me, he's so fun to watch, and to me, he's my MVP so far.
CJ.
I mean, if I had to pick, I think I'd go Kyler, best player on the best team right now. I don't know, from the very little that I've seen this year, someone that I would mention that could get it if they finish the season really well. I think Lamar's played well this year. Their team has performed
He doesn't
well.
get credit. He doesn't. He plays so well. He doesn't get any credit. He did have kind of a down week. The thing is sometimes he doesn't have to put up the numbers that the other guys are putting up because his defense is good, and the scheme that their team runs is able to run the ball a lot, even when they have bad running backs because they're all injured. He's not required always to put up huge gaudy numbers. So I think in the long run, that might hurt him a bit. Someone that we didn't mention that we definitely should is Tom Brady.
Yep.
He's leading the league in passing yards. He's one off the lead in passing touchdowns. He has 17, and Patrick Mahomes has 18. Okay. He only has 3 interceptions on the year. 2 of them came in the first game of the season. What else? He is in completion percentage. He is, oh wow, there's some guys really high. I was about to say Kyler Murray or Brady's
Lamar
3rd.
Jackson is insanely high.
Yeah, Lamar's 12th.
My boy DeQuell is probably up there somewhere.
Take a guess who you think has the highest completion percentage.
Dak Prescott.
Nope, he's 2.
Dang it. Oh, okay. I'll take 2.
Guess, CJ?
I have absolutely no idea.
Kirk Cousins.
I'll read you the top 5. Okay. Joe Burrow. Mac Jones.
It's 5.
Russell Wilson. Joe Burrow's 5. Mac Jones 4. Okay. Russell Wilson 3. Dak Prescott 2. Kyler Murray 1. So all
that solidifies my answer.
Thing is his attempts are lower than most of these other guys. Outside Joe Burrow only has 174. He doesn't throw the ball as much as like someone like Tom Brady, Mahomes, Ryan, Stafford, Dak Prescott, Mac Jones. Wow, Mac Jones has a lot of attempts. Justin Herbert, 246. That's another person we haven't mentioned as well. So there's a lot of guys that really could be in here. I think right now the favorites are guys like Murray and Allen, but I think we have to mention people like Brady, Prescott, Stafford, Mahomes, and Herbert are all in that conversation as well, in my opinion. Just depending on how the next 12 or 13, wait, bad math, 11, the next 11 games go. So, all right. Anything else you want to talk about with this conversation before we move on? No. All right. Without any further ado, tonight, October 19th, Tuesday, is the tip-off of the NBA season. Now, you know that I am not a NBA expert. I like to dabble. I like to watch some guys dribble up and down the court, put the ball in the hoop. Some basket sports. As a matter of fact, I am now an actual varsity assistant basketball coach. So now I know so much.
The basketball coaches.
But it's a lot of fun. I've been getting in shape the last couple of days, and oh my gosh, it's killing me. I did beat a few guys at some of our sprints today, but they were the big boys, so I can't take too much pride. But I figure Wes, CJ, James, take it away. Tell me about your preview of this season, what you expect to see. Imagine I'm a fan that just likes to watch and I need to know some insider info. What should I be looking for this upcoming NBA season, especially in these early months?
Well, Jake, knowing how much you like Kyrie Irving, I wouldn't plan on seeing him too much in the court this year. He's chosen not to be vaccinated, and they've told him that he cannot play any games in Brooklyn or in California. So, so that means no home games.
It's like half the teams.
No home games and no games in California. So,
did you hear why he won't get the vaccine?
I heard he was upset that people were losing their jobs over not getting the vaccine. That's what he
said, because he doesn't want to adhere to mandates. That's all. Only reason he said.
Hmm.
But this is not a political show. I'm not going to say where I stand on the matter.
Nope.
Wesley, continue.
Nope. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting season. I mean, we'll see when Klay Thompson's still hurt, but hoping to come back in December. The Lakers have added Russell Westbrook to their squad. So, you know, you got crazy Chucker with LeBron and AD, and they've kind of retooled with adding Carmelo Anthony and DeAndre Jordan. So Lakers look pretty good. And then, you know, it's going to be the rise of the young guys, you know, Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum. Can these young guys take over the league? So we'll see. You know, not to mention Trae Young and the Hawks. But you know, the Bucks are still champions. So Giannis is still Giannis. And right now
we ain't the champs no more.
The Bucks are playing the Nets right now and up 12 with 5 minutes left in the third. And Kevin Durant's healthy, James Harden's healthy, and should be a fun season. What do y'all think?
I'll go. Since he talked about my boy. No, in all seriousness, I am very excited for the season. Like, NBA is probably my least favorite to watch of the three until the playoffs, but I do watch pretty much every Hawks game. But this season, I just feel like with Luka coming, Tatum coming, Trae Young, you think about these Cade Cunningham, all these young people, these superstars that are coming out of college in the past few years are really blossoming. Even, I mean, Giannis isn't super old either. I know he's been in the league a little longer than those guys. Yeah. Just to see and these older players that are kind of transitioning out. I mean, I know the Lakers are taking them all, but they will eventually go out. And I think the league is just more exciting right now. I'm interested to see how the new foul rule comes into play now that Trae Young won't get nearly as many foul calls as before.
Good call.
So are you watching the game?
No, I'm not.
Has Harden got any calls at all doing that?
Let me see.
All right.
Let's check that Harden's. James Harden has taken 4 free throws so far, so that means
it's probably
effective.
Taking effect. I thought that was interesting because they're trying to take away the stupid fouls, which I think is good, even though it's probably going to hurt Trae Young. And I'm excited just to see, you know, the East and West. Like, I feel like the West is just so stinking strong, but then you got top heavy in the East. And the East are the champs, and no one expected that last year. Interesting to see what the Phoenix Suns do. Chris Paul in his 86th season. I don't know. It's just gonna be good. I think it's gonna be such a fun year. So,
all right. So,
and
opening night. Give me CJ, and then James, and then Jake, and then I'll give mine. Who are our opening night predictions for the NBA Finals? What do we got? Go ahead, CJ.
Like
putting you on the spot. Yeah. Who we got? East. Who's your best team in the East? Best team in the West?
In the West, I'm gonna take a big leap of faith. Jamal Murray comes back healthy. I think the Nuggets sleeper pick.
That was a good pick.
I really like their GM. They really put their team well together, and they just have such a good young core. I think they could make a step this year. The East is tougher. I'd go safe with this one. I think as long as Kevin Durant and James Harden stay healthy, the Nets are still the favorites, although it's a lot closer.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you have those two guys last year, they might be the champions right now instead of Milwaukee. So I think Nuggets Nets is a very possible NBA Finals.
Half size smaller shoe, they'd be in it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
No, you're good. Champion out of that, just from experience, I'd say Kevin Durant would take the Nets to the championship. But
good call. I really hope Jamal Murray comes back full strength. He's a fun player to watch. James,
he was lighting it up, man.
I'll go with a surprise team in the West as well. This team has a good coach. They have a good team. They gelled together last year, and they just fell apart in the playoffs like they do every year. But I will take the Utah Jazz in the West.
I don't know about the coaching.
Every year,
love.
Every year they fall apart. Go for it.
Yeah, they said that about the Bucks, and look what happened.
Good call.
Anywho, but that's how I got in the West. I wouldn't be surprised if, like I said, any of the top 4 teams want between Phoenix, LA, Utah, or Denver. Any of those teams go. In the East, I want to say the Hawks, but I won't. I will say the Milwaukee Bucks go again, but I say they lose this year to whoever they face, the Utah Jazz. So that's what I got.
There we go.
All right, Jake, what are your picks for the NBA Finals?
So last year I didn't get to watch much of the NBA. Ever since LeBron left Cleveland, I haven't watched a ton of NBA. Here and there, I watch big games when I see it. But what I generally notice in the NBA, and it's going away lately, which I really like. I mean, I saw an ad for the upcoming season and said, has it ever been more true than it is now that so many teams or every team has a chance? I mean, we have more parity in the league right now than we've ever had before, or maybe not ever, but in a very long time. There's a lot of teams that have a shot. But generally what I notice in the NBA is the team, which is, I guess, not a huge observation, but the team with the most top tier stars usually finds a way to gel come playoff times to dominate the other teams. So that being said, in the West, I have the Lakers. I think just adding Westbrook makes a big difference for that. Having a point guard that they can just say, hey, LeBron, go take some minutes off and your point guard's going to get some buckets. I think that makes a big difference. I don't know if the hero ball from all those different guys is going to work out and mesh. We'll see. But Anthony Davis, LeBron, Westbrook, that's a tough combo to beat. And then on the other side, the Nets look like a great team as well. So I'm going to go Nets Lakers. It's not what I want to see. It's actually probably the matchup I want to see the least. But I think those are the 2 most talented teams. Hopefully some other teams come out that are more well-rounded and balanced and better coached. I'd like to see that kind of basketball more myself. But these 2 teams look star-studded, and they're my picks. On another note, before you give yours, Wes, did you guys see the Bucks championship ring today?
Nope.
It is one of the classiest, smoothest rings I've ever seen. I mean, there's a lot of cool rings out there.
Bucks and 6 on
it. It looks pretty sick. It looks awesome. I highly encourage you to check it out. They just released it today.
Solid picks there. Y'all know my feelings on Westbrook, one of the hardest worker in the NBA, but doesn't have it up here. But yeah, hey, that's your pick. My pick. So I want to take into the Olympics into consideration here. A lot of guys go to the Olympics every year, and there's always someone who comes back who brings something else that they haven't shown before. When James Harden went to his first Olympics, he came back and then led the league in scoring the next year. My guy who I'm predicting could have an MVP season is Jason Tatum in the Boston Celtics. So I'm going to have the Boston Celtics coming out of the East. Jaylen Brown, they're bringing in Ime Udoka. Brad Stevens is taking a GM role. I like what they're doing. They brought back Al Horford. Their starting 5 is one of the best in the league. Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Al Horford, Robert Williams. They're bringing along some young guys too. So they're a very deep team. I like their squad. In the West, I'm stealing CJ's pick. I love the Nuggets here. If Jamal Murray comes back healthy, I think they, from top to bottom, they're tough. Jamal Murray is one of the top scorers in the league, and then take MVP and Jokic, and Michael Porter is maybe one of the more underrated young up and coming stars in the league. 6'10" Kevin Durant lookalike, in my opinion, the way he plays, how fluid he is. Doesn't have quite the handle of Durant, but he's coming. And then throw in Aaron Gordon and some really, really good role players. But I really like the Nuggets. Another team to look out for. Just needs some more help. The Mavericks. Luka Doncic was a man on a mission in the
Olympics.
Olympics.
Love to see him have a good team around him.
Just needs a little help from Porzingis, or if they bring in someone else, Kyrie Irving. That would be big time if they could bring in Kyrie.
He could definitely play in Texas. Yeah. And now under Mark Cuban would probably like hold him down and make him get that shot. But we'll see. If the Mavericks get Luka one more player, they could make some noise. But for now, I'm going to take the Nuggets and the Celtics.
Interesting.
There is one team that I would like to mention that I think could sneak up in the East, and Kyle Lowry. to an already pretty good lineup. I mean, they have health issues like nobody's business. But I think in adding Kyle Lowry, a point guard who can pass, score, he can pretty much do anything you need him to, and he's willing to pass. He doesn't care. I mean, he's a team player. Add that with Jimmy Butler, Bam, Adebayo, however you say his last name.
Yep, Adebayo.
I think they could be sneaky and get in the. Yeah, that's it.
I'll tell you my sneaky pick, who I'm very, very high on. This guy had a great Olympics. He played fantastic. Zach LaVine and the Bulls. They're sneaky looking pretty decent. They brought in. I'm not a huge DeMar DeRozan fan. I think he's a little washed, but I like them bringing in Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso, and I think LaVine's going to take a big step. And they still have Nick Vucevic, and they're hoping a big step forward from their 4th overall pick last year, Patrick Williams. So the Bulls could surprise some people. Just depends on can they put it together. But I like they're sneaky, in my opinion.
I do like their lineup.
So. Yeah, that's all from NBA. Unless y'all have anything else, I'm excited. Rockets are going to be fighting for that top pick. So Chet Holmgren, here we come.
There we go.
Y'all don't know who that is, but
Green.
he's like a 7 foot, 180-pound center, but he's pretty good.
I watched a lot of his high school highlights.
Yeah, he crossed up Steph one time, and that's how he got famous.
I did too.
Well, nicely done, guys. I was genuinely entertained and also enlightened. So nicely done. I feel like I learned something today, and it's always a win of a day when you learn something. As
You're welcome, America.
I like to tell my students.
America.
So it is time for the fans' favorite segment of the show.
Are we just gonna skip baseball like that, dog? But that's
I'm so sorry. You're right. My bad. So the ALCS and NLCS are in peak intensity right now as the Braves. Well, the Braves are looking. I'm sorry. The Red Sox are looking to go up 3-1 on the Astros, and the Braves are up 2-0. Or I'm sorry, what was
just lost?
They just lost, so it's 2-1 right now.
Lost. Yeah.
So the Braves are up 2-1 on the Dodgers. Okay. So I want James, then Wes, to break down your respective team, as James is our resident Braves fan, Wes our resident Astros fan. I want to make sure that I throw this to the side and grab instead my Braves hat to show my full support for your Atlanta Braves, James. So go Braves. Tomahawk chop. Braves. Tell me what you're feeling about the NLCS. How do you feel about what's going on in your 2-1 current series lead and what you're expecting throughout the rest of the series?
All right. So this is almost identical to what happened last year. We were up 2-0, and it was 2-1, and then they won 3, and we won 1, and then they won the game 7. However,
highly disappointing.
I feel like this team is totally different. This team is totally different than that team last year. I feel like this team just plays together better. I know, you can't replace Ronald Acuna.
But somehow they are.
I feel like Eddie Rosario and Jock Peterson are batting over like 400 in this
They're
playoffs.
platooning really well.
They're playing every day. They're not platooning.
Oh, I thought Peterson was just coming in as pinch hitter in certain
Soler is out with COVID, so he's been playing
that's right.
the whole time. And he's hitting everybody. It doesn't matter if it's left or right-handed.
Good.
Anywho, so the series so far has been pretty much the Braves have one big hit, and we hold the Dodgers to basically 2 runs or below. And our bullpen has been automatic except for today. Today was the worst game by far.
Cody Bellinger hit a 3-run bomb to
that pitch he hit.
Right?
I'm not even joking.
Oh.
It was like right here. It was
James,
like above his head.
Your Wi-Fi cut.
He just hit it
out
8
there.
miles.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
The pitch that he hit was like well over his head.
Was it really over his head or just really high?
I mean, it was really high.
Okay.
It was probably eye level, probably a little above eye level.
Okay, gotcha.
It got his head a
crazy.
little bit.
It was high.
Considering how much of an uppercut swing he has. It's crazy he got up there.
It went pretty stinking far too. And so they came back. We were up 5 to. They were up 2-0. It was 2-2. We were up 5-2, and then in the bottom of the eighth, they scored 4 runs, and we had one bad outing from our bullpen. And Charlie Morton actually pitched horrible. He threw like 30 pitches in the first inning. I have a lot of confidence that we actually can win this series. Will we do it in 7? Potentially, highly probable, just because they're such a good team. But I really do see us winning the series.
Do you worry about your depth of pitching?
No, because we didn't use Ian Anderson hardly at all. We have 2 other starters that we haven't even touched yet, and Oscar Iona and Drew Smiley. Which, if we won, probably Drew Smiley would start game 4 because, I mean, we have the flexibility, and he's not the greatest pitcher, but he's old and
he could give you 3 or 4 solid innings. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
And well, so I don't know who we're going to start game 4 now, but our Max Fried pitches game 5, and I'm just going to count that as a win because of how good he has been.
How well he's pitching.
Yeah.
So before we transfer to West, do you have anything finally you want to add? No? Okay. So before we transfer to West, you, James.
No, I have nothing else.
Who would you rather see? The Astros or the Red Sox?
I mean, my heart says, even though they've been playing way better right now, would be the Red Sox.
But so you would rather play the team that's playing better as a Braves fan?
I just think we match up better with them.
Interesting.
I know we can stop Kyle Schwarber, who's hot, because I mean we faced him 100,000 times when he played for the Nats.
And the Nats.
And then we played them a lot. And then I know their pitcher. I think Houston's pitchers are better. They just haven't been pitching well.
Sure.
I'm not scared of any of the Red Sox pitchers.
Okay. So. Cool. All right, Wes, take it away at the ALCS. What's your take so far throughout the series? What's been disappointing to you? And what do you think the Astros need to do to clean it up?
Biggest loss of the ALCS is losing Lance McCullers to a forearm strain. Huge loss for us. We won game 1, which was big behind Fromber. But even with Fromber, the starting pitching has just fallen apart. We've given up 3 grand slams and the second, 2 grand slams in the second game and 1 in the third game, which is tied for the most ever in a postseason.
3 grand slams in 2 games. That's insane.
In 2 games. Yeah. So, and the 2 were in back-to-back innings too, the second and third innings. So.
That's demoralizing for a team.
Oh yeah. And it comes down to starting pitching. Our starters we were relying on our young guys, and Luis Garcia is a rookie of the year candidate. He wouldn't win it, but he's up there. ERA close to it's in the low 3s. Jose Urquidy, this is his second time in the postseason, second year starting. He's had a strong year, ERA about 3.5, and Fromber's been a horse for us all year, ERA in the 3s as well. But man, these guys are struggling. I think the lights are pretty bright for him, and it's shown it. That Uvalde, he's been here before, and he was dominant. Eduardo Rodriguez was dominant. Sale wasn't that good, but their hitting came through for him. And man, it's just coming down to starting pitching. It's
sure.
They lifted Greinke after an inning and a third today. We brought in kind of our long guy, Christian Javier, so to hopefully get us some innings. Right now we're down 2-1, but
what do you think they're gonna have to do to turn it around?
It's got to be the pitching has got to give you more than an inning, because our bullpen can only do. They can't go 8 innings.
Eventually, they're just going to get tired down. I mean, that's what we saw the Indians in 16. I mean, you see that so much in playoffs. If you don't have that bullpen, the depth, 5, 6, 7 guys that can go and get some rest here and there, eventually they're just going to get torn up. That's how you see with Andrew Miller just couldn't go on that game 7.
And not only tired, but they're seeing guys 3 or 4, 5 games in a row.
Very true.
They start sitting on pitches,
and
it's going to take a lot. This is a must-win game for us. If we go down 3-1, I don't think we get to 6, honestly. So this is a make or break game.
I hate to bring this pain to you, and CJ, I guess not a big baseball guy, but Ash, you live in Houston. Just imagine you have Justin Verlander, what this team could have done this year.
Yeah. No, and they had him throw out game 1. and none of the players wanted him even there because he's been on the team, but he hasn't been with the team at all.
They didn't want him there?
No, he hasn't been with the team supporting him all season long.
Just his choice. He just said, I'm just going to sit out the year and like go on vacation or whatever.
Well, like he hasn't even been in the dugout. He hasn't even been traveling with the team at all. Like and then they have him throw out the first pitch, and no one ever on the team was just like, where have you been all year? Like,
really?
What are you doing?
I didn't know about this. This is drama I never picked up on.
It was kind of hard to swallow seeing him out there because he hasn't been with the team all year. He hasn't, he of course coming off Tommy John, but
but like usually a guy gets injured and he may not be out in the dugout every game, but like he's at the clubhouse and on home games, they'll be there. If he's like rehabbing or something, there's a reason that he can't be there because he's at some rehab clinic. Sure.
I agree.
But like the fact that on a playoff run, I mean, even towards the end of the season, he hasn't started to come hang out and like cheer his guys on. That surprises me.
Yeah. I mean, it really shows that like, he must really not want to come back.
I mean, I guess when you got a wife like Kate Upton keeping you home, I guess it kind of makes sense, but I'm just playing.
I mean, yeah, we'll see. But I mean, the Astros, I mean, again, this is a must win. The starting pitching's got to give you more than an inning or two. If we can get to 5, we got a shot. But
all right, so who would you rather see in the World Series, the Braves or the Dodgers?
I mean, and kind of going to, before I answer that question, I will say if the Astros were to come back, that would mean the Astros got hot. So that means I would kind of agree with James that you'd rather play the Red Sox.
Sure.
But who would I rather play, the Braves or the Dodgers? I'm more frightened of the Dodgers, but I want to play them. I hope the Braves win because I hope they don't make it. But if the Dodgers do win, I would be happy. So anyways, I'm scared of the Dodgers.
So you'd rather play the Braves?
Yes.
But if they play the Dodgers, you're excited at the opportunity to beat them.
Yes, that's a good way to say it.
Okay. I mean, you guys you lost to them, right?
We beat them and lost.
Oh, you beat them and lost to them. So Dodgers won like 3 of the last 4. I hate the Dodgers so much.
Is that right? Yeah. No, that's not right. We beat them, and then they beat the Rays.
You beat them. It's CJ. You beat them, and then they beat the Rays. Is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. All right.
We lost some Nationals.
So that's our baseball, football, basketball talk. Hope you guys have enjoyed. Before we absolutely adios, I want to cover some interesting moments in MLB playoff history for trivia. Okay. So I've got only 3 questions today. It's not going to take long, but I'm going to ask you 3 questions. They're all multiple choice. You get to choose, and whoever wins gets to host next week and do trivia however you like. So my question is this. Question number 1. Which of these natural game-altering moments have not happened? Okay, so natural disaster, game-altering moments. 1, a game being halted in the playoffs due to a tornado. 2, a game being interrupted by an earthquake during the playoffs. 3, an infestation causing game-altering effects. Which of those 3? We'll start with Wes, James, CJ in the order of my screen, left to right. So which of those 3 have not happened? Wes, you're first.
I'm going to go with a tornado.
James?
I wasn't good tornado because, I mean, what tornado happens in October?
Okay. CJ?
I will shake it up and go earthquake.
All right. So James and Wes, congratulations. You're correct. There's no tornadoes that happen in October. At least that'd be a very, very rare occurrence. However,
in Texas,
they can happen. They can happen. Where'd it go? Let me pull it up.
Like bees or something? The infestation?
Not bees. Not bees.
Locusts?
Not locusts.
Bats.
Okay. The 1989 World Series had a lot of buzz, being that it put crosstown rivals Oakland A's and San Francisco Giants against each other. The A's were favorites to win the series and were led by Mark McGwire and Jose Canseco. But during the game, the pregame warmup of Game 3, everything changed as a 6.9, which is a big earthquake, struck California. The moment was live on TV until the power went out. At least 63 people died during the quake, but many people believe that because it happened during the World Series, many lives were saved, as a lot of people were outside, not in their homes, being crushed by things. Since 99 people were on Interstate 880, which collapsed. So the game was postponed until the next day. And then the infestation is one of my favorite playoff stories. It happened during the 2007 ALCS. Here it is. In game 2 of the ALDS, I'm sorry. In Game 2 of the 2007 ALDS, the Yankees were up 1-0 on the Cleveland Indians and handed the ball to Jabba Chamberlain to shut down the eights. He was their setup man and get the game to Mariano Rivera. But this was in Game 5 of the ALDS. But when Chamberlain took the mound, hundreds of bugs that in Cleveland we call midges started swarming the mound, distracting Chamberlain and causing him to give up the game-tying run. He was swatting at these things all inning. He could not get them off of him. A lot of times the humidity just brings them out and they just go nuts. However, as soon as the Yankees left the field and the Indians relievers came in, the midges left the field and the Indians were able to make a rally in the ninth to win the game. So really interesting story. The tornado thing was made up. So Wes, James, you're tied. Question number 2. Which of these two events did happen in the playoffs? So one did, one did not. We'll go James, CJ, Wes. The infield fly rule being applied in the outfield, or a pitcher recording 4 strikeouts in an inning without recording a single out. Which of those two things did happen? James, you're first.
The infield fly rule in the outfield.
Okay. CJ?
I'm going to go B.
Whatever.
Pitcher recording 4 strikes without recording a single out. And Wes.
Yes.
So we're saying which one did happen?
Which one did happen?
I'm going to say the infield fly rule in the outfield.
CJ, you're 0-2. Again, the infield fly rule did happen in the outfield. I thought maybe you guys might think something like 4 passed ball, third strike drops could have happened, right?
Only if Elijah May is behind the plate.
Yikes. Hey, I'll
Do
take
you
that.
know why I know this?
Yeah, because it happened to the Braves.
It did.
Very
Recently.
I was hoping you would know this one. Okay, I got the whole story for you. Emotions were only raised when being down 3-2, Braves shortstop Andrelton Simmons. So this was one of Chipper Jones's last games. Okay. The night started and everyone knew it was possibly one of his last games, especially with the Braves. So emotions were very high. They were raised when Andrelton Simmons tried to bunt home a runner from third. The Cardinals pitcher Kyle Loesch went to throw to first and hit Simmons on the helmet. Simmons was then called out for runner interference as he was not running down the baseline correctly. Because of this, the run was taken off the board. So they're still down 3-2. But in the bottom of the 8th, with the Braves down 6-3 and 2 men on base, less than 2 outs, I believe there's 1 out, emotions boiled over and everyone started freaking out because where'd it go? Simmons was at the plate again, and he hit a pop-up into shallow left field. Cardinals shortstop Pete Kozma kept drifting into the outfield further and further and further. He waved off the outfielder Matt Holliday, but then lost the ball and peeled off at the last second. Holliday tried to make the catch, but couldn't get there, and the ball dropped behind him. So the Braves fans were going nuts, thinking that they have bases loaded with 1 out. However, the umpire called the infield fly rule, which states if there are runners in first and second base and less than 1 out or less than 2 outs, you call it infield fly rule to prevent the defense from intentionally letting the ball drop and getting an easy double play because the runners aren't advancing. Now, the interpretation of the rule has been something that people have struggled over for a long time. And you get arguments from coaches, especially in high school, little league coaches all the time. Should that be or should that not be an infield fly? The general interpretation of the rule is that the defender needs to be camped underneath the ball for an infield fly rule to be called. So in my opinion, I'm sure yours as well, James, this should not have been an infield fly rule as the ball was out of the infield. And also no player was camped underneath it. So Braves fans went nuts. Sam Holbrook made a very, very late infield fly rule call. And fans that realized it just went absolutely berserk, started throwing cans and bottles and whatever else they could find onto the field. The manager, Freddie
Seems like
Gonzalez.
a common trend for my team.
Oh, yeah, it's sad. The manager of the Braves at the time, Freddie Gonzalez, protested vehemently, but his protest was denied. The Braves lost. Their season ended. Chipper Jones' career ended as his final game, and another chapter of the weird, wild world of baseball was closed. It's absolutely insane. By the way, I'm getting all this from a Bleacher Report article. I should probably cite that so I don't get sued. So I always thought that was one of the wildest stories in baseball. A terrible way to end a career of a player. One of the all-time greats. I'm sorry, James, to bring it up.
I'm fine.
But it is what it is. All right. Final question. CJ, you're mathematically eliminated, but you can still participate.
Yay.
Which of these events did not happen? So therefore, 2 of these 3 did happen. A 72-year-old man got body slammed during the playoffs. A 3-year-old boy nearly got flattened mid-game, or a woman tackled a pitcher on the mound. Which of these 3 did not happen in the MLB playoffs? CJ, you're first this time, then Wes, then James.
I mean,
I'll repeat. 72-year-old man body slam, 3-year-old boy flattened mid-game on the field, or woman tackling a pitcher
Define flatten.
on the mound. Run over by a player at full speed. Nearly flattened.
I'm gonna go with
bulldozer.
tackled a pitcher.
Okay. CJ claims a woman did not tackle a pitcher. James.
I'm
sorry,
not-
Wes.
I'm also going to go with the woman tackling a pitcher.
And
Just 'cause
third,
I want to hear the story.
James.
Oh, I want to give West the victory, but at the same time, I don't care. Let's go with the 73-year-old man was slammed.
All right. So Wes and CJ, congrats. You guys got this one correct, which Wes makes you our grand champion of the day. So you will have to host trivia next time. So think of something interesting to do. Ready to hear the stories? They're pretty good. So where'd it go? Here it is. There are many rivalries in sports that claim to be the biggest. Michigan versus Ohio State, Lakers, Celtics, but it's hard to dispute the rivalry between the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees. If you need a prime example why, you only have to look back to 2003. Earlier during Game 3 of the 2003 ALCS, many Yankees thought that potentially the greatest pitcher of all time, Pedro Martinez, was throwing at Yankees batters, mainly Karim Garcia's head. When Clemens came up to pitch the following inning, he threw up and in to Red Sox batter Manny Ramirez. The benches cleared, but this time, after the second time of benches clearing the game, 72-year-old bench coach Don Zimmer charged straight toward Pedro Martinez. Pedro didn't take too kindly by this, grabbed Zimmer by the head and threw him to the ground, causing a small cut on his head. Now, the Yankees won the game and the series despite their bench coach being injured. But most people remember from this series Pedro Martinez grabbing Don Zimmer and slamming him to the ground. Now, although Pedro was only trying to defend himself from a 72-year-old
slam, so
I
man,
wouldn't have called it a body slam either,
he slammed his body to the ground. Okay. Sorry, I may have exaggerated for artistic
body,
display.
body fall.
Interpretation. Sure. Now, there's no way you can defend Pedro injuring a 70-year-old plus man. I think he could.
I would have done the same thing to that old man if you charged at me.
That says a lot about your character, Wes.
Right in the face.
Right in the face.
All right. I feel like you could just hold him back. You know, it's kind of like when a kid gets mad at you and tries to hit them. You don't just knock them out cold. Just hold them back.
Well, that's why I'm not a teacher.
I guess it's not. All right. The other story that I thought was pretty interesting. Where'd it go? I got to find it really quick. In the 2002, Patty Mills is in the 2002 World Series, the San Fran Giants and LA Angels at the time faced off in a battle of 2 teams that never won a championship for their current city. For some odd reason, Dusty Baker, one of our podcast's favorite coaches, allowed his young son, his 3-year-old boy, to be a part of the team as the unofficial bat boy. Now, any parent knows that toddlers are unpredictable. I mean, I've seen hundreds of parents grab their kid out of the street at the very last second. My brother included, just thought, traffic, this would be a fun game. Let's see if I can run between it.
You can dodge traffic. You can dodge a ball.
But Darren Baker, 3-year-old little boy, after Kenny Lofton hit a triple with a runner on first base, said, I'm going to go get this bat mid-play, and ran right across home plate. However, luckily for Dusty and Darren Baker and everyone else who was watching terror, JT Snow, who was on first base at the time, running around third, saw him at the last second and picked him up as he crossed home plate without even losing stride, and did not hit him at all. So the crisis was averted. But that's our trivia for today. Wes, congrats. What, James?
Definition of flattened is flattened.
I said he was nearly flattened. If he would have ran into him, he would have been laying flat on the ground. It's no fun if I say, but it happened. Did a 3-year-old player run across, get to be a bat boy, go get the bat? Of course you're going to know what it is. I got to add some interpretation, some dramatic flair. All right. This has been The Swinging Bunt. Thank you guys so much for listening and or watching. Be sure, like the video, subscribe anywhere that you are listening. Give us comments on Apple Podcasts. Goes a long way. Tell your friends about us. Whatever it is that you need to. and be active in our social media. It really helps out quite a bit, and it's fun. It's good to have a community. I'm sure you guys know that with any of the shows that you watch or listen. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you next week. Be sure to catch our picks of the NFL Week 7 on Wednesday.